Hi, good evening. Welcome to St. Peter's in Hove, Sunday evening. Hope you're all feeling very relaxed. We're now taking another step along the way in St. Mark's Passion narrative. We're leaving the house of the high priest and we're going to the house of Pilate. And we're turning a chapter as well. It's chapter 15, first verse. First thing in the morning, the chief priests, together with the elders and the scribes and the rest of the Sanhedrin, had their plan ready. They had Jesus bound and took him away and handed him over to Pilate. Pilate put to him this question, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He replied, "It is you who say it." And the chief priests brought many accusations against him. Pilate questioned him again, "Have you no reply at all? See how many accusations they're bringing against you." But to Pilate's surprise, Jesus made no further reply. A very mysterious passage in many ways. The silence of Jesus. We know about the words of Jesus, don't we? But now we have the silence of Jesus. It is you who say it. It's a polite way of saying that's what you say. So you acknowledge that I'm the king of the Jews, even though you don't really acknowledge it. But out of the lips of children and of babes, you have said unwittingly what is true without knowing it to be true. But then he says nothing else. He falls silent. The scribes, the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, they are very, very loquacious. In fact, they're screaming and shouting with all these accusations they bring against Jesus. They want Jesus put to death, and of course, they made the elementary error of deciding to sort of put him to death on multiple charges. You only need one charge to put somebody to death, and when they're put to death, they're dead. You don't need to find them guilty on hundreds of things. But they've obviously got hundreds of charges against Jesus. We're not told what they are, frustratingly. And Pilate seems a little bit sardonic about this, a little bit sarcastic. Pilate realizes that the chief priests and the scribes and the Pharisees are all up to no good, because he said, "Can't you hear these things that they're saying about you? No, this is nonsense, surely. Aren't you going to say anything? Why have you nothing to say? Are you the king of the Jews?" He says with disbelief in his voice. It's obvious to Pilate, a man of the world, that this is no king. This is no earthly king anyway. And Jesus says nothing at all. Jesus does not defend himself. Well, how very different from our own situation. As soon as somebody says something to us if we don't like, we rush to defend ourselves. We rush to deny it. We rush to say it's wrong. We start attacking the other person, because attack is the best form of defense. We do not take things lying down. We do not take things quietly, and we do not adopt the idea of the silence of Jesus. But we do need to be a bit more silent than we actually are. One of the things is, of course, that when we say something in reply, if nobody's listening, our words are wasted. And I think, first thing, the reason Jesus is silent is because he knows that they will not listen to him. He knows that Pilate's mind is closed. Pilate's way of thinking is completely different from his. He knows that the Sanhedrin, the Sadducees, the Pharisees are past reasoning. He knows in many ways that his situation is hopeless and that no long verbal defense is going to make any difference at all. He knows they've already made up their minds. And similarly, when we know that we cannot communicate with people, why do we bother trying? Why talk to people when they're not going to listen to us? They know what we think anyway, probably. So silence can often be the best thing. The other thing about the silence of Jesus is it's the silence of love. He loves them. He wants them to be redeemed. He's taking steps that they will be redeemed, because he's going to die on the cross for the Sanhedrin and for Pilate. And therefore, he is praying for their redemption. He's working their redemption, not just praying for it. And he realizes that the most perfect expression of love at this moment is complete silence. That is to say, let us not try and put off the passion. Let events unfold. Let us go with what God has ordained. In other words, Jesus' silence is a sign of his self-abandonment into the hands of the Father. The Father will deal with this. The Father has laid out the path he is to follow, and he follows it in complete love for the Father, but in complete love for suffering and sinful humanity. And sinful humanity is right in front of him in the shape of Pilate and in the shape of the Sanhedrin. So sometimes when you feel you're with people who are difficult to love, the only way to love them is by saying nothing. It's by loving them, but without talking, loving them in silence. All the very best. We'll talk about this again tomorrow. Good night for now. Bye.